Good there, Peter.
It's great. And here we are. We're now streaming live. I
Um,
wanted to thank you, Sergeant Isaiah Thompson. We have a little bit of interesting background for Sergeant Thompson. And when we were trying to fix it, Sergeant Thompson and I both said, well, maybe the crazy purple psychedelic background isn't bad because purple is the color for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it's such a blessing that we have you, Sergeant Thompson, helping us with Marsy's Law and here today, specifically because of the work you do in the domestic violence field and how you advocate for victims, not just in that space, but for victims all across Tennessee and in Jackson, Tennessee. Could you tell us a little bit about first where you just came from and why you're wearing purple?
okay. Today we had a proclamation at Jackson, Tennessee, in the mayor's office for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October, as we know, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I have my purple pen where we honor domestic violence victims and those who are suffering from domestic violence. And we had a proclamation in front of the mayor's office in City Hall, just giving honor to those who are dealing with domestic violence.
Yeah, and Sergeant Thompson, your work in this area is really celebrated across the state of Tennessee, and you have been so helpful to us in Marsy's Law in Tennessee. And just as recently as it was very recently, you received a Justice for All award at the Family Justice Center. So congratulations on that. So I wanted you to tell
Thank
us
you.
a little bit about the Family Justice Center and specifically the Safe Hope Center that you're a part of in Jackson, Tennessee.
The Family Justice Center in the state of Tennessee opened a lot of Safe Hope centers. Now, most people don't understand the Safe Hope Center are like a one-stop shop for victims. You know, some victims, if you want to come in, we have available a navigator that can see what is it that she needs. Does she need clothing? Does she need food? Does she need shelter? She's trying to get away from her abuser. Do we need to arrest this guy? Or is it that we need to give her an order of protection? So we also have a sane nurse assessment. And in our buildings, also the assistant district attorney who handles all of the domestic cases in Jackson, Tennessee. We have a victim coordinator also here. So it's like a one-stop shop for domestic violence victims where they can come and get service, whatever they need, from prosecution to even therapy. If they want to set up therapy for what they're going through, they can do all of that here at the Safe Hope Center.
And you help them navigate through the entire criminal justice system from the time that you first meet them all the way through however their case unfolds, which is enormously helpful for victims. And you even talk to them and help them get advice on protective orders and shelter and things like that.
Absolutely.
Now, this interview series that we've been doing for a while on Marsy's Law is entitled "Why We Do What We Do," and we've been able to interview people like yourself are involved in advocating for victims, from prosecutors to incredible heroes who have suffered tragedy in their own family, who have turned their pain into incredible purpose and trying to advocate for victims so that people don't suffer the same kind of tragedy that they do. You have an incredible story yourself as to why you do what you do, and specifically in the area of domestic violence. Now, everyone has different reasons for why they want to get into whatever career they get into, and even within law enforcement, everyone has their own story. Tell us a little bit about when you were in college, your own personal experience, your own personal family experience that moved you in a certain direction, not just towards law enforcement, but ultimately in the area of domestic violence.
Well, Peter, I have an older sister that's about a year older than me. When we were younger, she kind of got hooked up with an abusive husband who ended up being her husband. Um, me, my brothers, and my siblings, we tried to get her out of the situation. And it appeared the more that we tried, the more she pretty much rejected us. And so it kind of got me out of a, why is she not allowing her family to help her? Um, I went through stages of that, trying to understand that. I went to college, and they asked to write a paper over something, to research and write a paper over something you've always kind of wondered about. And I started doing my research on why do women stay in abusive relationships. And I actually did a paper over that, and they talked about the different reasons. They're self-sufficient. Sometimes they get hooked on drugs. And later, my sister did get hooked on drugs a little bit, and it was being self-supplied by her husband, being abusive, the demeaning, the absolute just taking her whole self-esteem away from her. And she was such a beautiful young lady, and still is. But those things helped me and enlightened me to understand, like, why, and the need also to help those women. When I started my journey at the police department, in which it was a factor on me becoming law enforcement, I started my journey as a patrolman, and then property crimes. Then I did major crimes and homicides and robberies. But ultimately, I landed here, which is my passion, is domestic violence and sexual assault, helping victims get from their abuser, saving lives, rescuing people from monsters. So this is definitely a passion of mine. I like the Safe Hope Center, and I oftentimes say that we are a beacon of light for those victims who are searching for someone to care, someone to love them, someone to embrace them, someone to tell them that they can come from their area and we're going to help them.
It's also important, and your personal story, I'm sure, really resonates with victims that you come into contact with, and I'm sure it's very empowering for them to see someone in front of them who has aided a family member or someone close to them, and being able to start with them on their journey, just like you did and started with your sister on their journey, and to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and to see that these things can end in a way that they actually feel empowered. And I think that your personal story is probably something that really resonates with victims. Is that your experience?
Absolutely. It's nothing like going through to have the empathy to help someone else. If you've never been on drugs, you might not understand it. But if you've ever been through anything, there's a different kind of empathy and sympathy that you know and understand. And it motivates you and makes you passionate to be a help to those victims.
Yeah, I mean, I had my own personal experience with that. Thankfully, very early in my years as a prosecutor, when I was talking to someone who was involved in in a gang in the inner city, and he was going to be a witness in a case, and he was terrified of the ramifications of testifying and what would happen to him in the neighborhood, what might happen to him as a result. And I said, I know what you're going through. And he looked at me and he said, no, you don't. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. And it really helped me as a prosecutor going forward, to really sit down and listen. And I thought how powerful it was when I listened to you and your personal story, and then working in the field that you do, to be able to sit at the Safe Hope Center when people come in the worst time of their life, to say, look, I know what you're going through, and we're going to get through it together. So we're very blessed to have people like you in the position that you're in. Um, I want to speak a little bit about Marsy's Law in Tennessee. We're in the middle of our efforts there to get Marsy's Law passed. As you know, it would put meaningful and enforceable constitutional rights for victims in the Constitution. And I want to take you to a meeting at the Safe Hope Center when Bonnie Brazina, who is our state director there in Tennessee, had a bunch of people and a bunch of stakeholders in the victim space gathered together to kind of educate, which is what we do when we're trying to get Marsy's Law passed in a state, and bring people together and educate them on it and tell them a little bit about how it would impact their particular part of the criminal justice system. And Bonnie ran into you, and you had a situation, not your sister's situation, but another person who was close to you, a dear friend who had suffered in a domestic situation, domestic violence situation. And you told Bonnie about it in the context of Marsy's Law. Could you tell us that story?
Absolutely. Bonnie came to the Safe Hope Center and began to talk about Marsy's Law. I had not heard of Marsy's Law before that, and I was actually born in the state of Oklahoma, but I think it recently just passed. I was dealing with a longtime friend who knew I worked in the domestic violence unit. She married an abusive guy who pretty much, I asked her permission to call her name, and she's worked actively in the domestic violence. She lives in Texas now, but Michelle Cobalt, she she married an abusive guy. I didn't know the guy was abusive. Like most abusers, he was very cunning, very sweet at first until the abuse started. And he pretty much one day beat her almost to an inch of her life. Um, she went through the different things. I helped her navigate for what I knew and who to talk to and so on and so forth. But the problem came when Michelle called me about not knowing where her abuser was stationed. She was found out that he was moved, but she didn't know where he was moved. And then I found out by talking to Bonnie that Marsy's Law basically states that the victim have a right to know where the abuser is, and even if he gets out. And so that intrigued me, and I got with Bonnie and I talked to Michelle, and Bonnie called some people in Oklahoma, and just like that, they returned Michelle's calls. They told her what was going on, and they pretty much, she thanked me that the speedy response she got when Bonnie reached out to the people in Oklahoma. So she was very grateful. She found out where her abuser, ex-husband was. Because it's very important for victims who've been abused to feel safe. And they want to know where this person is so they can feel safe. And that was important. And she was lacking that. And she had panic attacks, not knowing he was out, where he was, so on and so forth. But with Marsy's Law, they speedily returned her response and got her in contact and gave her the information so she could feel comfortable, feel safe, and know where her abuser is. And she was very grateful. And I want to thank Bonnie for that, for giving me that information. I am definitely a huge advocate of Marsy's Law, and I pray that it gets passed in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, that you can't get a much stronger and more personal endorsement than that, Sergeant. I really appreciate it, and that's one of the things that we do pride ourselves on is to educate up front in a state where we're looking to try to get Marsy's Law passed, but also to stay and maintain a presence after Marsy's Law gets passed in each state in order to help people from law enforcement and victim witness advocates and district attorneys' offices as to how to actually implement it and implement it correctly. And also to be there to be ready to go and answer questions in any particular situation, whether it be a legal question or a situation just like you had when Bonnie contacted our Oklahoma team and was able to reach out and get that situation rectified. Most importantly, to give peace and peace of mind to your friend Michelle in Oklahoma. I just wanted to ask you just very quickly, the Safe Hope Center is something that really should be modeled all over the country. And could you just, and you described it as a one-stop shop, could you just describe how it is set up in the different entities that are actually that are actually represented there? My guess is you probably need a bigger space. I'm just going to assume that without even asking you, because of all of the people that are represented. And this might actually be an opportunity for you to even advocate for a bigger space by telling us all the personnel, number one, that are within that building, And then also the different functions of the different entities that are there, if you could.
Absolutely, Peter. When you first walk in the Safe Hope Center, we make sure that there is a comfort there, that everyone feels comfort. Most people come in and speak with the navigator first, because we want to assess the situation and see exactly what do this victim need. There you have WRAP, which is Women Rape Assistance Program, that works directly with women about shelter, about therapy. We also we have a same nurse station that's here. We have the assistant district attorney here in this same building that handles all the domestic violence cases in the county of Madison County. We have a victim coordinator here that handles all of the victims for domestic violence and rape and sexual assault. You have officers, and I have investigators and people like myself who are assigned to this particular building to handle all the domestic violence and sexual assault cases in Jackson. Also, we have West Tennessee Legal Service. So if you want an order of protection, we have an attorney here that will go to court with you and advocate for you to get the order of protection. So, like I said, it's a one-stop shop. The WRAP advocates help with shelter, they help with therapy, they help with just anything, clothing. We have an area downstairs where if a victim has to leave like 1 minute and get out of there, we have a closet full of women and children clothes down there. So they will not go alone or without have any underwear. We have diapers, we have hygiene products, anything that they need. If they need to get out, they have no reason to come back. I mean, it's a whole closet full of different size women clothes, children clothes, and so on and so forth. And I say women because majority of the victims are women, but also men as well. So this, when I say a one-stop shop for victims, you have West Tennessee Legal Service, you have WRAP, you have the Jackson Police Department, you got the district attorney's office, you have victim coordinators, all in one building, and you have a navigator to help the victim figure out what she wants to do.
That's absolutely incredible. And all of this is in one fairly modest size, and that's probably giving us something, building.
Absolutely. We even got rooms for the kids to play, watch TV while you talk to the mom and assess the situation. One modest sized building, got an upstairs and a downstairs, the basement with the clothes and the different coordinators and different people. So I definitely love it. The Family Justice Center, this is the idea of what you want pretty much in every state and every county.
And the clothes don't magically appear. Can you tell us a little bit about how they get there and the good-hearted people of Tennessee that provide them?
Absolutely. We actually have a young lady here that she takes in all the donations. She goes through if they need washing, she washes them, she hangs them up. This is specifically her job. And all day and half the day, people come up and they give. We have a lot of different groups of people, veterans. I know that they come, they give food, water. I mean, it is amazing how the people in the community pull together to help victims of domestic violence. All day, I can say we take in donations after donations after donations. So no one would ever have to go without, from food, from water, to hygiene products, to clothing, to shoes, so on and so forth. It is here, Peter, if they need it.
And what do you need for the children in that area? Maybe toys and books? Do you get people to donate that?
We have a shelf full of bears. We have toys that's in the playroom, so if the kids want to go in and play. We have cable where they can watch cartoons. We have coloring books. All of those while we take care and service the victim, the mom, more than likely, and where they can feel comfortable and so on and so forth. Like I said, we have small kids' clothes from toothpaste to hygiene to diapers, and they constantly give out these things within the year. And even during Christmas, they have gifts that they give to women who have been a part of this program, who've gotten out of abusive situations and just need help.
Yeah, it is. It's just an amazing service that you provide, and to think of a woman, like you said, more than likely it's a woman, or any domestic violence victim that comes in at a frightening time in their life. Probably not just the lowest moment of their life, but also frightening, and absolute foreign territory, having no idea what they're about to confront, never mind what they are confronting at home, but what they're about to confront in the criminal justice system, which is another complete unknown. And to have the navigator meet them, and for you to hold them up and embrace them the way that you do with all of those resources, is really such an incredible service that you provide. And just to hear the way that you all work together, and the people who will never ever see the people that you treat bring in clothing and toys and coloring books. It's really just such a beautiful story to hear in these times that we live in right now. And just to clear up one thing, when you talked about a SANE nurse, that stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner.
That's correct, Peter. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
probably
no,
should have
that's
made that
okay.
clear.
But that is one of the real critical pieces, to have a sexual assault nurse examiner on site. That's an amazing thing. And once again, all this stuff it needs resources. Could you tell us just a little bit about the importance of having a sexual assault nurse examiner on site?
Well, mainly our sexual assault examiner is Miss Mary Cole. She has an office here where she can operate out of, but mostly she's at the hospital doing what she needs to do. But she may sometime come in here and have a conversation with me about a rape victim or so on and so forth. But having that space she has here to come in and talk to whoever or whatever, that's integral and is very needy for the type of victims that we deal with daily. Because we also deal a lot of these victims, they're also sexually assaulted as well. So just to have that person there that can, and she's very thorough. I want to give a plug to Miss Mary Cole. She's a very, very thorough and great SANE nurse, probably the best I've ever seen, Peter. But having her and having a place for her here is definitely integral for us to do what we do in Jackson.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Sergeant Thompson, for the work that you do and for helping us to try to get Marsy's Law passed. I think that not just from your experience with our Marsy's Law director in Tennessee, helping in Oklahoma, but actually to see how, once it is passed, how important it will be to help victims. And it'll be one more tool for all of you to help empower the people that you see come into the Safe Hope Center, and victims all across Tennessee, to have them know that they have, that not only have rights as victims, but they have rights that are meaningful, enforceable, and enshrined in their state constitution. So I thank you so much for your efforts helping us get this passed. And I read somewhere, and you just said it again, that you refer to the Safe Hope Center as a beacon of light, which is just a beautiful image. But having gotten to know you, and anybody who sees this will realize that you really are a beacon of light within that beacon of light. So
Well, thank you,
you so
Peter.
much, Sergeant Thompson.
Thank you for inviting me, Peter. I do want to say I can't wait for Marsy's Law to get passed in Tennessee, to be able to tell my victims, hey, you got a voice, you got rights, and we're going to make sure that you know you do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sergeant. We will be in touch, and you have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for
Thanks
your time.
very much, Sergeant. You too. Bye-bye.
All right.